What's up guys, it's Jamie. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to give you my thoughts and overall review of my iPhone 12 Pro after using it for 1 week. I came from an iPhone 11 Pro, so I'll be able to compare the two devices to help you make a decision if you're looking to upgrade. Before we begin, when you're watching the video, if you could just quickly hit the like button, it's going to help out the channel. It's also going to help this video get exposure for other people that are looking for similar information. So to start, I purchased the 128 gigabyte silver iPhone 12 Pro model. I decided to go with the silver color because when I was looking and doing research, it seemed like everyone was going to be going with either the blue. It seemed like the silver color was the least popular of all the colors, and I really wanted something that was going to be different. And I really liked how the silver edges, the stainless steel edges on the silver phone are not painted, and they really pop. It gives it a really interesting look. And seeing all the other colors in person, and I'm very happy with my decision. I'm very happy that I decided to go with the silver. It just really confirmed my choice. My previous device was the green iPhone 11 Pro. So when I went and purchased this, I decided to go with the special color because it was different. I thought that it was going to be maybe a little bit more limited. I didn't know if it was going to be harder to get, but I wanted to get the different color just because I thought it was that much more special. After going with the special color with the 11 Pro, I really didn't want to do that with the 12 Pro. So I wanted to go with something a little bit more classic and sleek looking, and I think that I was able to achieve that with the silver color. When looking at the differences between the iPhone 11 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro, the biggest difference is really the design. It's the flat edges that you get on the new 12 Pro. I mean, they're so different. It's similar to what you find in the, I think it's the iPhone, maybe it's the 5, I think was that model where it had the flat edges, but this just takes it to a whole new level with the stainless steel all around the outside. I think it is perfect. I think it looks really good. It makes the device feel a lot more substantial, a lot more elegant. It feels like it is worth that $1,000 price tag when you compare it to the 11 Pro. When you have them hand in hand, the 12 Pro 100% feels like a much more premium device, even though they do have the same price tag. I think especially on the silver phone with these shiny stainless steel edges, it really takes it to a whole new level. As beautiful and as nice as the flat edges on the 12 Pro look, there are some drawbacks. I do find that holding the device is a little bit more cumbersome. It's a little bit less comfortable and natural than when I hold the 11 Pro. Just the curved edges on the 11 Pro, it just lends to a much more comfortable feeling in your hand. I mean, I think that that's a pretty obvious thing to say, but it's an obvious thing to say and to talk about. It's just a little bit different than when you actually have it in your hand. Because when you pick up the device, initially, you don't think it's that big of a deal. It's more about when you're using it throughout an entire day and day after day, you really start to notice it more. So in different instances, when I am holding the phone, I do find it to just not feel as good in my hand just because those edges are so sharp. It's just not as natural in your hand. One of the instances in which I've really noticed the edges is when I go for a run. So when I run, I hold my phone like this, and I really start to feel the edges of the phone on my fingertips. It's something that I never felt with the 11 Pro, and it's really not that big of a deal. It's just much more noticeable. The other area that I think that the edges of the phone are much more like prominent or noticeable is when I just put it in my pocket. With the naturally with the rounded edges of the 11 Pro, it just easily slips in and out of your pocket. It's not as noticeable. With these rough flat edges, it's a little bit more difficult to slide in and out, but you just really notice it much more, I feel like, in your pants pocket. Now, with all that being said, I would take these flat edges over the rounded edges all day. The reason being is that the overall look and design, and not actual feel, but the feeling that you get through the flat edges, it's so much more premium. It's such a nicer overall look that I'm willing to sacrifice the few instances or circumstances in which it is not as comfortable. I'll sacrifice those just to get this better look and feel. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is the screen. So whenever Apple unveils a new phone, it's always like the greatest iPhone ever. And one of the things that they always are going to talk about is the screen, having a better display. But I really want to know if a normal person is actually going to understand the differences. And to be completely honest with you, when I look at the two screens, 11 Pro to 12 Pro, I really don't see much of a discernible difference. So there's a little more screen real estate in the 12 Pro versus the 11 Pro. It's not substantially different, but it is, I think, enough to where you can notice it. I think it's the perfect size for overall screen size. One thing that I found that's a little bit different, that I'm not really sure to what the reason is for this, is that if I have my 12 Pro and 11 Pro side by side, the brightness is all the way up and True Tone is turned on. For whatever reason, the 12 Pro has more of a yellowish hue to it. All the settings are exactly the same for it, but it seems like the True Tone is a little bit more amplified than that of the 11 Pro. So it always seems a little bit warmer or a little bit more yellowy. So I don't know if this translates over the camera, but the 12 Pro is in my left hand, 11 Pro is in my right hand, and you can see both the brightnesses are all the way up and True Tone is turned on, but I always am getting a little bit more of a yellowish vibe or hue on my 12 Pro than on the 11 Pro. And it's not, I wouldn't have noticed it unless if I was looking at the screens side by side. So I've turned off True Tone here. iPhone 12 Pro is in my left hand, iPhone 11 Pro is in my right hand, and there really isn't much of a difference here. It's more so evident with the True Tone turned on. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to translate in the camera. However, if this is something that you've experienced as well, I'd love to know. Please comment below. I'm not sure as to why that is. Maybe it's the ambient sensor is a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more sensitive, and that allows it to take in the ambient lighting and adjust accordingly better than the 11 Pro. It's just something that I noticed that I thought I'd touch on. So the next thing that I want to talk about is photo and video quality. So with every new iteration of the iPhone, they're always trying to improve on the camera for better photo and video quality. When looking at photos and videos, comparing the 11 Pro to the 12 Pro, I really didn't see much of a difference. I'm not a photographer, I'm not a videographer, so maybe there are some subtleties that a professional would actually see. It's just that for my eye, and I think that for the majority of the people that are buying these phones, for their eyes, they're really not going to see much of a difference. I think that where you're really going to see the difference is if you're someone that's upgrading from an iPhone like X or XS or older. I think you're really going to see a difference there with the 3 lenses and just the improved quality within those lenses themselves. There's really going to be a jump. Now, maybe if you are a photographer and you are using your phone in that type of a setting, and maybe you can manipulate the camera in a way in which you're able to get expanded capabilities. I just feel like someone who is on that level, most likely they're not taking those types of photos with their 12 Pro. I think that they're probably using like a legit camera for that, and maybe they're using like a 12 Pro in like a pinch. But I think that the majority of people that are buying the phones, they're really not going to realize much of a difference between the camera quality on the 12 Pro and the 11 Pro. So the next thing I want to talk about is 5G. The only reason why I bring this up is because it did take up a huge part of the unveiling of the phone. I do have Verizon and I live in Los Angeles, so 5G is available. I haven't really seen much of a difference in speed, quality. A lot of times I am on Wi-Fi, but when I have not been, there hasn't been a noticeable difference to me versus like the LTE. I don't know if that's going to change over time. The one difference that I have seen is a little bit negative. For whatever reason, there's been instances in which I haven't been able to connect to cell service. And these are normal situations in my apartment, outside, just not having service available. So when this has happened, a lot of times it's been when I'm coming from a place that doesn't have cell service. So either I'm coming out of like an elevator, or I'm in a parking garage that doesn't have cell service, and then once I get out of it, it just doesn't quickly connect. So if I'm coming out of the elevator and getting into my apartment, my phone will connect to Wi-Fi, but I won't have any service. So what I have to do is physically like power cycle the device. And so I'll turn it off, let it sit for a second, turn it back on, and then it'll reconnect to 5G. I don't know why that is, but I will say that it is something that has happened a few times already, and this is just in 1 week. So hopefully this is just a little bit of a glitch, but it has happened a few times in my 1 week of use. That is a little bit concerning. I don't know if this is something that other people are experiencing, but I thought it would be a good idea to bring it up. So moving on, the next thing I want to touch on is battery life. For whatever reason, everyone always talks about battery life. To me, it's not really that of a big deal. I haven't noticed any difference transitioning from my 11 Pro to the 12 Pro in battery life. I really don't even know what the specs are for it, if it's supposed to have better battery life. What I think is that most people, when they get a new phone or get a new anything, you use it a lot more than you would normally in the beginning because it is new. So with that increased usage, which is out of like your normal habit, obviously you're going to be draining the device a lot quicker, but I don't think is representative of actual battery life. For what I can see in my usage over this week is that battery life is very similar to my 11 Pro. I've had no issues. I haven't noticed it to be any shorter. I also haven't noticed it to be any longer. So the big question is, should this be an upgrade that you make? And I think it depends. It depends on your situation and the device you're coming from. If you're coming from an 11 Pro like I was, it really is not a must upgrade. The camera quality, the overall performance of the device, I think is very similar. The big difference is the design. And so the question you have to ask is, do you want to make that upgrade for the design? For me, the answer was yes. I think that the new design is amazing, and I think for my situation, the upgrade was worth it. Now, if you're someone that has an older device, like a 10S or older, I think this is definitely an upgrade that you should consider. I think with the overall design, the performance upgrades, the new camera setup, you're really going to see those differences. Just the camera alone would completely change your world. Having that wide angle lens is so different. The night mode is life-changing. So I think that anyone in that situation, this is definitely an upgrade that you should consider. Now that's all that I had for you today, guys. I hope that you found it helpful. I hope that I was able to cover certain items and help you with making your decision on whether or not this is an upgrade that you want to make. If there's anything that I didn't cover or anything that you would like me to address or touch on, please leave a comment below. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support. I'll catch you guys in the next video.